everybody, welcome to the Shelemiah. Hi, welcome to the Shelemiah Show. I'm your host, Shelemiah GRIFFITHS-JOHNSON, and today we are going to be talking about the evolution of gaming and what it does to our society. The label video games covers a multitude of different things. There are a million different types of video games. Each of them operates as its own form of entertainment. Since there's not one label for the individual types, they get a simple genre description. We lump it all into the video games category. It's pretty complex, even to us so-called gamers. Video games are actually computer sports. They're interactive movies and TV shows. Video games are a simulation of just about anything. Some are simple works of artistic expression. Video games can even be educational. To figure out exactly what a video game is, we take you back in time to see how the technology came about. A physicist's work on the first nuclear bomb during World War II is what led to the creation of video games. A man named William Higginbotham was working in his lab trying to create an ignition system for the bomb. A challenge with working with these systems was being able to measure the impacts and related controls to be able to trigger the bomb properly. This led to the development of radar screens, another form of measuring signals. Similar technology was the cathode ray tube. Like a gun with a built-in movie screen, the gun would fire electron bullets, and those bullets could be dragged across the screen to create different shapes of a single color, operating as an electronic etch-a-sketch. Higginbotham was excited by these simple display controls. Immediately, he saw the potential of gameplay. In a few days, he made a simple game with the technology and brought it to his company's public show, where hundreds of high school kids lined up to play. That was the only place you could play the game until companies were able to make games for television. Tennis for Two was a triumph. Ralph Bayer's famous 1967 brown box was essentially an early prototype of a home video game console. The first home-based version of this game was called Pong. This part of history was tragically forgotten in the era of Atari. Gerald Jerry Lawson was one of a few African-American engineers in the gaming industry at his time. He is known for designing the Fairchild Channel F video game console. He pioneered the commercial video game cartridge. Take a look at some of these old school video games. Different types of games began to be developed, reflecting early American culture. For example, the Oregon Trail was an adventure game in 1971, where users could choose different options to trigger simple plot points. The different types of games captured the public's imagination, and Atari began to hold focus groups to figure out what could be the most compelling experience. These focus groups were used by Atari to evaluate a new game concept. A trained moderator would lead each group in formal question to determine their playing habits and interests. The audience for video games made them the perfect vehicle for teaching kids in more entertaining ways, giving rise to the concept of educational software. Here's the president of the MECC, Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium. His company believes that learning can be and should be fun. That is fundamental to what MECC is all about. Video games like Centipede, Joust, and Miss Pac-Man continued into the 1980s. As technology allowed for more and more data, games were able to include voices. Here is Star Wars actor Mark Hamill recording the game voice in the 1990s. The quality of voiceovers is just as important as any other aspect of gaming. Quality matters to the gaming experience. Other advances were made in animation and online play over the internet. Games like World of Tanks reflect the common military theme in much of modern gaming. We're live with Gordon Bellamy, veteran of 20 years in the gaming industry, engineering grad from Harvard College, and currently the head of the USC Bridge Incubator Program. He is also the designer of the popular game Madden NFL and the recipient of the 2018 GDC Lifetime Achievement Award. Mr. Bellamy, from the history of gaming, what has significantly influenced your path in the industry?
I think the rise of mobile gaming has been the biggest thing, because that means that anyone, anywhere in the world can play the same games.
What contribution to the gaming industry are you most proud of and why?
Well, I've had the good fortune to design some big games like Madden football, but the biggest impact has been hiring interns that have stayed in the industry for 20, 30 years. Like, that's the most important thing to me.
What are you most excited about when it comes to the future of gamification?
I think the most exciting thing is players customizing their own experiences and like games really being a service to players. That's the thing I look forward to the most in all the games I play nowadays.
Who would you consider the rightful father of gaming?
Well, I think you're asking between like Higgins, Boson, and Bear. I think gaming has two dads. I think making games and design matters, but also making games accessible to people. And so they're both the fathers of those two things. One made the first game, but one made the first game everyone could play.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bellamy, for answering all my questions.
You're very welcome. Thank you for making me time and including me in your project.
Let's go through the video game creation process. First, we have the game concept. Every game begins the same way with an idea. That initial idea serves as the blueprint for the entire game design. The idea inspires artists and writers that are on the design team to develop a storyline. This includes character creation, level design, and incorporating game features. So we got the game design document, which is the most important phase. This may also be known as an alpha testing phase. Before the game is released, it goes back to more testing. This is beta testing, where hired gamers play the game. Triumphs of gaming include improved coordination and problem-solving skills, enhanced memory, attention, and concentration. It's also a great source of learning. It improves the brain speed and enhances multitasking skills. It also improves social skills. Another triumph is having African American video game protagonists like Lee Everett, Billy Lurk, Jackson Briggs, aka Jax, Shiva Alomar, James Heller, Quico, Carl Johnson, aka CJ, Doomfist, Watchdog 2, Lincoln Clay, and Shinobu Jackson. Gaming can be used for much more than just grabbing emotions. Gaming should be used as historical artifacts. All of this can be used in educational simulations. Biggest tragedies of video game history bring the story back to its roots. The ease of simulated gunplay has sometimes been connected with school shootings and attacks against gaming events. Some tragedies include preoccupation, health problems, and suffering relationships, social isolation, and occasional neglect of personal hygiene. Despite the bad press, 63% of parents believe that gaming is positive. 66% of parents play with their children solely to socialize. And lastly, top-selling video games are not violent shooter games. 22% are in fact other action games. Thank you for watching this production. I am Shelemiah Griffiths-Johnson. This is the future of gaming. Hi everyone. I would like to introduce my focus group. My colleagues, Caleb Fayton, Noah Lewis, and Carson Edwards are here today. What did you learn from the evolution of gaming video?
What I learned from the evolution of gaming video is that as games progressed and got better and better, games got more fun for everyone, and there was more games being created and more games for everyone to play. So like in the beginning of gaming, there was just like one color lines going across the screen, but now there's really realistic characters in battle scenes and cutscenes and all that with voice acting and CG animation. So I think gaming has come a really far way, is what I learned from, a really long way is what I learned from the video.
Okay, I agree, because back then gaming, the graphics were absolutely terrible. It looked like pixel art now. There's an app called Pixel Art. It just looks like that. And now there are games like FIFA 19, Madden 19. The graphics, they even added sweat and things like that. I don't know why they did it. It just makes it look unrealistic though.
I somewhat disagree with Noah, because adding sweat into the game actually makes it more realistic. Because if you watch sports today, you would see that all sports players sweat, you know, because they're playing sports. So I think that adding sweat would actually make it more realistic experience. But I can understand why adding way too much sweat would make it a little less realistic, because in some of the sports games that I've seen, no one sweats that much. Like, they're just completely doused in sweat, and it really looks weird.
No, so what I mean by that, I mean, like, when it's like the 3rd minute of the game, it has like, when the sweat appears on the character, it makes the whole face yellow. And that's what I mean by it makes it look unrealistic.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
I would get that too, yeah. Do you disagree with anything in the video, and why?
Okay, I kind of disagree about like what the future technology, because you don't really know what's going to happen in the future, and it might not get that advanced, or it might get more advanced like that.
It's thing is, we could like make a hypothesis about what can video games be in the future, and we can just go off about the games we have right now to interpret what games we're gonna have in the future.
What are some of your video games that you guys like to play?
Some of my favorite video games, well, I don't really have a #1 favorite, but I do have a number of them. So some of my favorite video games include NBA 2K19, the NBA 2K series, Rocket League, and Fortnite, which is a very common game to be one of your favorites.
Okay, I have a couple of favorite video games because I play a lot. Rocket League, WWE 2K17. Mostly 17, because I think it was the best of all of them. FIFA 19, Roblox, and most of all, Fortnite.
Yeah. I have my favorite game to play, what I think is most addictive is to play is Call of Duty Black Ops 4. That's my favorite.
What games are good and bad for the industry as a business?
So I think that Call of Duty is probably a bad game for the industry, because it's more realistic than other shooting games, and it has a bad representation to oneself, because it's gory, it has a lot of blood, and may scare a child that is our age.
Are there any games where kids and parents can have a balance in competition?
I like to play games with my family, like FIFA 19 or 18, because me and my dad, well, we love to, and we still do every Sunday. We play FIFA 19, and I practice sometimes. He's always saying, I'm always gonna be better than you. But our recent game, we tied 1-1, and I was bragging in his face. And also, it makes you competitive whenever you're playing games with your family, and it also gives you bragging rights.
There's a game called Wii Sports that it's on the Wii, and it's a variety of sports games. It could be whatever you think of. It's on there. To track, to football, to rugby, soccer, basketball, anything you think of. Wii Sport, because it's also kind of like Just Dance, because it's kind of like it's motion sensor, because if you move your remote in your hand, it's gonna look like you're in the game. Your hand is moving. It's like if I do this in the game, it looks exactly like that.
I think some of my favorite video games that I can play with my family that strengthen the bond is NBA 2K19, which is one of my favorite games to play. And I think it's really fun because not only can you just play by yourself in the My Career mode, but you can also play with your friends online through the Around the World game mode. So I think that it's really cool that you get to play with all your friends and family with NBA 2K19 because it's just really fun, and I think it's a good thing that technology is advanced enough to be able to do that.
I love how education is using video games. Do you guys?
Yes, because there was this thing our school we had a school field trip. Well, it was a 6th grade field trip. We went to this place called the ED Gaming Expo. It was a way of they combined learning and video games. So there was like virtual reality glasses there. There was this game where we had to use things like H2O, hydrogen to make an object. And I made a guitar. I don't know really how I made it, but I still did.
Education in video games just makes the learning process so much more fun because if you have a person, let's say, they don't like to learn because they think it's very boring, I think it's a good thing that it can be fun. So then if it's fun, they can also do better at it because they're not distracted by, oh, this is so boring, or I don't like this because it's hard. So I think that education in video games is a good thing. And I think that today, now that we have the tools to make it fun, that we should definitely make it fun in any way we can.
I agree with you, Caleb. So I do remember playing this one game for school. It was called Prodigy. And Prodigy is a math game that can drill you on your math problems. And you can earn different levels, and it was technically a really fun game, right? So, like, it was fun, but I still learned from it. It could give you hints for the answer sometimes, but it also can explain to you what you need to learn.
Like how you got it.
Right. So why do you think people blame video games in the issues for society?
I think, personally, most people think of video games are bad more than video games are good. Because, for example, gun violence. I know that some school shootings aren't always influenced, almost never influenced by video games, but there have been some school shootings that were. So I think that people jump to conclusions saying that video games are just used for entertainment. They're not used for anything else because the popular video games that people know aren't educational.
Some people are always saying that we need to ban video games because they're saying they cause shootings, like shooting video games cause shootings. But I disagree with that because not all shooting games are the reason of shootings. They might be related, but they're not the cause. And also, the first thing when I think of video games, I think of addiction.
Well, I think that I also agree with Noah, because I think that the reason that people blame video games so much is because that they're just used for entertainment only and not anything else, and they see them as time wasters or things that just rot your brain. Because I remember when I was little, I thought that video games, or I at least was told that video games could like rot your brain, and so I thought that was a bad thing. But now I know that video games don't really harm you if you control them and you limit their time, and you just basically play with caution, basically. But that video games shouldn't be blamed for violence, because they never really cause any violence. They can cause temporary causes of violence, but that's only measured with stuff like how likely you are not to put hot sauce in someone's soup. So
You just have to be cautious and not use your whole day playing video games, but at least you can use an hour, 30 minutes to have that little relaxation in your life.
yeah,
Well,
I
like
agree.
something like that. But in my house, we get like an hour of 30 minutes to play video games that they're entertaining, and then like some of that time, we have to use that to like do learning games that are a benefit to society.
So would you say that you play more video games that are not really educational, or would you play? Do you play more video games that are educational?
I play more video games that are like entertaining on the weekends, but when it comes to school nights, I'm not really allowed to.
What are your thoughts about pop culture and gaming?
Well, I think pop culture and gaming, or dancing and gaming, is a good thing, because even if you're on a battlefield, you can still express yourself to other players without using words. And I think that's a good thing, because if you don't have a mic to communicate with the other player, or you don't have any way to text to them, then I think it's a good thing that you have, ways to express yourself other than just words. And it's a lot of fun to, show off your latest dance to your other friend that you got on this game. Fortnite and some other games like Call of Duty, because they also have emotes, and a lot of other games like NBA 2K19. So I think a lot of games these days have pop culture in them and dances, and I think that's a good thing, because it just makes the experience a lot more fun.
I agree with Caleb, because it makes it very fun, especially when you might get invited to somebody's house, and then you play Fortnite or any game there, and then you win, and then you have a lot of people who are watching you, like spectators, but you can't talk to them. You can't like talk or hear them, but you could do emotes like take the L or like the golf clap to express how you feel.
So I agree with both of you, Caleb and Noah, because I think that some games have made dances that went viral, that everybody in the whole world is doing. So, because what Caleb said, I personally think that it's really good to express yourself on the battlefield or anything, just to express yourself without words, because you can't, because I go off of the saying action speaks louder than words. So I think that you can express yourself by using actions, by using dances, because dances express you're happy and you're laughing. It's overwhelming, but it's really cool, because gaming has evolved and has kept evolving to now where they made dances that has gone viral, and the whole world have seen it.
Maybe just show me a few of your moves.
Yep.
All right, so this one's called Dance Moves. It's also in Fortnite. It goes a little bit like this.
Thanks for watching the evolution of gaming video on the Shelemiah Show. I really hope to see you guys next time.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you for having us.